We started kind of working on together, you were just opening up your computer and just going live at your house, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and what I want to talk about a little bit is, it's a huge learning curve, right? As you know, and as we've learned. But I just felt in my gut, I was like, man, if I just force myself to do it every Wednesday at 6 o'clock and then just try to get better every week. And some weeks it was really frustrating. We would think that we really got everything dialed in, and then we've got all the cameras rolling, and we've got a camera switcher that you recommended me get the Roland VHD1. Is that right?
Yeah, the
Do I
V1
say it
HD.
right?
In the
V1
beginning.
HD. I always mix it up. But so I got that, and then 1 week we were streaming everything at 60 frames per second, and then the stream was breaking up, and we're just pulling our hair, and we figured it out halfway through. But then the next week we made sure we did not make that mistake, right?
Right.
So we've really learned a lot. But I found growing up learning drums that a weekly gig, you would learn songs during the gig, and then some songs you wouldn't do so great on. So you would spend all week trying to get better on those songs. And it's like, man, if I apply that ethos and that philosophy to this live streaming thing, then maybe our streams will get better every week. And they have. And now I couldn't be more grateful to Nick and Brian for the streams that we're able to create for my gigs now too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so speak about that for a second, because the live stream stuff that you're doing from Tipitina's, they have Tipitina's TV, right, which is like the live streaming channel, so to speak. And I saw some stuff, man, when you guys first started doing it, and I was blown away. It sounded great, looked great. So you guys are kind of taking that to another level also.
Yeah. So with Tipitina's TV, when we do that, which Galactic has done it, and we've done 2 seasons of Tipitina's TV. First season was like us, Anders Osborne, Tank and the Bangas, maybe Dumpster Funk. Maybe Dumpster Funk was second season. And Nugs.net does that. And so we hire a 7-person crew with a jib and all this. So we've totally got crew and sound guys. But when I've been playing in there with my trio, it's just Nick and Brian, and they're doing the sound and the cameras, and gradually they've upgraded their switchers, so now they're using an ATEM Mini Pro
Extreme
ISO.
Yeah.
And they're also doing the sound for me as well. So, when you're playing as a trio and you're asking for virtual tips on your Facebook and YouTube pages, which is what I'm doing, we've got to keep the crew small to make it financially viable, right? So we've been able to do that, and I've done a few organ trio gigs outside of Tipitina's before we could open up. I did a couple Nola Tech gigs like that, but now we're doing them inside with David Torkanowski, James Singleton, and these guys are doing a really good job, and people have been contributing on my virtual tip jar on Facebook and YouTube. So now we're able to open up. We started at 75 people, tables, seats, and table service. Now we are open to 90 people.
Oh, wow.
So we're playing for a small audience now, but still streaming it and getting those virtual tips as well. And man, it feels like we've just made quantum leaps since you and I first started, and it's just me hunkering over my computer trying to learn OBS and no end in sight of the lockdown, and not even feeling comfortable enough to get in with Nick. And now Nick and I are both double vaccinated. We're doing streams from here in the studio. We're filming lessons. I rebuilt my whole drum academy during all this time, and now playing in front of audiences and streaming. It feels amazing. And, we're able to do what we're doing because of your tutelage.
Well, I'm glad I was able to at least start pointing you in the right direction. And, for me too, that Roland switcher now is in the archives back here, because as I think you probably remember, I was getting the new technology sent to me kind of late. It took a while for it to get here, and then I had to learn it and compare it against the other stuff, and then eventually I replaced all that stuff. And now Nick and I are both on those mini extremes, doing some better technology. But you're right, it's been a learning curve. It's been a year of just trial and error, experimentation, and trying to make it the best that we can in an environment where we couldn't go out and gig, and we couldn't go out and do what we normally do. So
yeah, and not being able to do that and pivoting and shifting because of these challenges that we've been faced with. Well, now I did my camp, my 3-day camp virtually, and that went so well. I had 30 people signed up for that. 3 days from 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. So 4 1.5-hour sessions. I send all the PDFs ahead of time. And we had such a blast that I did a 1-day intensive virtually.
I saw
March 20th, and had 30 people for that. So I'm gonna do another one. Looks like I'm gonna do them roughly quarterly.
Oh, cool.
And that would have never been possible before we face these challenges head on.
And they can find that next one that you're doing on your website.
Yeah, StantonMoore.com or StantonMooreDrumAcademy.com.
Okay, I just put up the image of that. Cool.
Yeah, I'll put up the next intensive, but I'm gonna email the people who were in the last one. I'm gonna email them first. Give them the super early bird special.
Nice.
And then I'll announce it to the public.
Yeah. So how was? I know we talked about this a little bit for Rhythm Magazine, but how was that trying to do a camp virtually when you've always done it in person, right?
Yeah.
And now you have this challenge of trying to kind of relay the same energy. Well, first of all, let me just say that you are the most energetic, infectious, happy-looking drummer I've ever seen play, which, just that, whenever I see you playing, you look like you're having a ball. Okay? And I know you are. And it reminds me of like Art Blakey, man. Whenever you saw shots of Art Blakey, playing, he was smiling, he looked happy, energetic. Your energy is like tremendous. And so the look on your face is so great. I saw an interview you did with George Colias where you were like, man, when you play, you don't smile much. And I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, it's like that type of music, that intensity, right? So his face is really serious. But, man, you just bring it, with this happy vibe. And I think, I'm sure you made that translate through the camp, right? Virtual camp.
Oh, yeah. I tried to. And coming from where I'm from, coming from New Orleans, and, there's a real joy in the music here. And getting to grow up watching Herlin Riley, Shannon Powell, very joyful, joyous drummers, that's rubbed off on me, I guess. And, I love playing the drums, and it is a joy for me. So it's not a put on. It's just me having fun. And I appreciate you saying that you can see it coming through. And sometimes, when I'm talking to people and I meet new people, I might tell them that, let's see, something is...
One of your snares is vibrating.
Oh,
it's your phone.
Jeffrey Clemens is calling.
Wow.
Snares. Jeffrey Clemens, drummer for G-Love.
Check
buddy
it out.
Of mine. But I'll call him back later.
There you go.
But so, I look at my job, yes, I'm a drummer, but also a bigger picture, like when I might meet people that don't know who I am, but I'm meeting them through my wife or something like that, they say, well, what do you do? And I'll say, oh, I'm a joy provider.
Nice.
Right? And it kind of throws them off as like, well, I'm a drummer. But my job as a musician is to convey and provide joy to people. That's why we do this, And so that's really important to me, to try to convey that and not to get too wrapped up inside of what I'm doing, but also convey the joy of it to people.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's kind of my attitude about, being an educator, the educator part. Well, also all this stuff that I do, but it's like, that's the way I always see it is I'm spreading the joy. What are you doing today? Spreading the joy. That's it, man.
Spreading the joy. Spreading the joy.
It's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about. And then, I've been trying to, as you have too, been trying to find the silver linings that we're going to be able to take away through after COVID. And part of this is definitely my intensives and the virtual camps and things like that. And I've done master classes now, Zoom master classes for drum, the International Drummer Meeting that's hosted in Berlin. I've done things for people in the UK, for Drummers Collective. These are places all over the world that now we're able to reach people globally that we wouldn't have been able to reach before. So I'm hoping that we'll continue doing that. Tipitina's, we released the Tipitina's Record Club, and that's doing really well for us.
Speak to that for a moment, because you guys are doing vinyl, right, with the Tipitina's Record Club. That's pretty incredible that you guys, you're, first of all, vinyl's come back in a big way, as we know, over the last few years. And it's another platform and vehicle for musicians, right? So I think that's very enterprising, first of all, and forward-thinking, even though it's it's like you go backwards to go forwards, as people say, but it's very forward thinking, right, to bring this stuff. So speak to that for a moment.
Yeah, so we had known that we wanted to try to do a vinyl club eventually, and then having the time and trying to come up with new revenue sources, we took it upon ourselves to take that project on full steam ahead. So the first release was Professor Longhair, recorded at home with his percussionist Alfred Uganda Roberts, and we thought that would be the great first release because Tipitina's was a place that was created for Professor Longhair to play.
Right.
It was started by 14 people who pooled their money together to buy this club that was called the 501 Club, and then they renamed it Tipitina's after one of Professor Longhair's songs called Tipitina.
Right.
So we thought, oh, this is great. We'll release this unheard, very intimate recording that was recorded at his house. So I was literally at the club this morning. I put in a 3-hour shift on the assembly line, packaging and shipping the Radiators live from Tipitina's, Kung Pao, which is the next record coming out. Then 2 months from now, Galactic Coolin' Off Special Edition, 25-year anniversary edition. 2
Wow.
record set, 5 unreleased, unheard songs that I completely forgot about. And so that's exciting. And then the 4th record is going to be James Booker, 1978, recorded live on stage at Tipitina's.
So who had the masters to that?
Yeah, so Sonny Schneider had the masters to that.
Wow.
And he was the front of house guy at Tips for years. So exciting stuff. And, we have lots of things in the works that will be coming out. So, already we've gotten over, I think we're at like 2,300 subscribers for that.
Wow.
So we're packing up 2,300 records today.
Oh my
And
God.
I went in and put in my 3 hours this morning. so it's exciting.
You just don't sleep ever, right? So it's just
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. During the pandemic, this is the first time that I've been able to choose my bedtime on a regular basis. And I've been going to bed earlier and earlier and earlier and waking up earlier and earlier. So I wake up in between 5:30 and 6:30 a.m. now. And I wake up and I practice and I write and then start answering email, and doing all this before the sun even comes up. So
right.
So I've been digging in, putting in some work early in the morning, and trying to get some work done on my academy and writing and watching edits that Nick is sending me, and the other guys helping me edit now too. Big Stan, Tanner, and Dallas, all guys that have been helping me, but now they're helping me even more because we're trying to crank out content during this time.
Wow. And we're both dads. And so you have to balance that too, right? It's like crazy.
Yeah.
So you got to somehow keep family, stable in the mix of everything. And then, all these different coals that you have in the fire.
All these different hats that we have to wear.
Yeah, for sure. And, I was going to just comment that I've always seen you since I've met you, and I'll go back to when we first met because I have a couple like little things I wanted to mention, but I have always kind of seen you as sort of an entrepreneur musician, and not all musicians are like that. Like you are very forward thinking in your career path and always looking for different ways to branch out, and it's really inspiring to me. And I know you've had some inspiration by a non-musician, Donald Miller, I think, right?
Yeah.
Is one guy where, about branding yourself, and, you're such a great role model for musicians coming up on how to just keep reinventing yourself, find other ways to do, if it's not working one way, there's another path, right? So speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, and especially in the last couple of years, but especially this year, I really started to look at what I'm doing as a business. And each facet of that business, is a division. So there's the live gigs.
Right.
There's club ownership, with Tipitinas, which we're just talk about a learning curve there. Now there's the record club ownership. There's the drum academy, and all these things take a lot of focus and a lot of effort. And the live gigs, we've been doing that for a long time. So now, that's got legs, and that's one area that I'm making revenue in. But now I'm really trying to grow the drum academy so that I don't have to go on the road as I get older. I can choose to go on the road. And the drum academy, it's been really fun now to rebuild it during COVID. I rebuilt, totally started the site from scratch and took all my content and moved it to a new platform. And it's been fun for me to really pay attention and rebuild it from scratch myself.
Right.
And as you mentioned, learning a lot from Donald Miller, and building a story brand, marketing made simple, and now I'm going through business made simple.
Right.
And it's been, it's almost like I'm using the drum academy to teach myself business.
Right.
And now I'm seeing how I can apply that to Tipitinas and the record club and StantonMoore.com and my merch and all these other areas as well. So it's been just a huge period of learning and growth through all of this, and it's exciting. It's scary too, because we're all staring financial disaster in the face because I haven't been able to make revenue like I have. But I feel confident that 10, 15, 20 years from now, I'll be having all these revenue streams that we created during COVID that are increased from hopefully 2, 5, 10 years down the road, and we'll be in better shape. And I'll know a heck of a lot more about business having rebuilt my team and my whole drum academy during this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is called the music business. So I try to tell young students, learn about the business. Because if you're going to make this your living, and if you're going to try to do this for real, it's gotten thinner and thinner, the available gigs and the available venues, and the recording industry's changed a lot. So I try to really encourage young people coming up, and you're doing the same thing, just to really learn about the business and make sure that you can, as you say, pivot when need be and have different ways to go. It's not one thing anymore, and we all wear a lot of different hats now.
Yeah. And the quickest or easiest, clearest way to try to explain it to maybe some of the younger people who are watching it is I look at the different, what I called facets of my business. They're separate, they're products, right?
Right.
So your live gigs, that's one product, right? The drum academy, that's another product. Just like, take for example, like a drum company, right? They sell drum sets, but they sell snare drums, and they sell, so us as drummers, we have to have different products, not just waiting for the phone to ring and showing up and playing a gig. My online lessons, that's a product, right? So as the pandemic started to onset, so I had to pivot and focus on other products that I offer, which were online lessons, the virtual master classes, playing live streams, and doing the virtual tip jar, and all of these things are, if you can't make money this way right now, then start focus on one of your other products that you can. You have to pivot.
Right.
But I think it's important to have diversified things that you can offer. I mean, the pandemic has shown us that. And, Jim, you were wonderful in that. You did a lot of online teaching and a lot of online coaching, coaching all of us drummers who needed some tech help. So, it's important to have other avenues that you can do. I started taking InDesign lessons during all this, and learning how to lay out my next book myself too, right? So that's an investment that will pay off down the road, but I'm gonna publish my next book myself, and get that out there, and I'm working on that. And so during this summer, I won't be teaching my LSU students, so I'm also going to hold off on teaching online lessons, and I'm going to take those hours that I've been teaching people, and I'm going to fill that in with write. So I'm going to write for an hour here, write for an hour here, and try to get my book finished this summer.
Oh, that's great.
So so I'm going to focus on that, for lack of a better word, product this summer. So trying to be productive and focused in different ways and on diversified income streams,
Right. Yeah. And that right there is kind of the epitome of the business now. I mean, anybody that I know that's doing it is writing a book, doing some lessons, doing podcasts, whatever income streams they can develop to do it, and thank God drum education is still a healthy, viable thing. My buddy Don Famularo, who's my mentor, he was teaching online lessons when it was dial-up. You can imagine, do, 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 and then, trying to teach a lesson when it's barely streaming. So, we have to be enterprising, and we have to be creative. And speaking of creative, I think you guys mentioned that you might play a little bit.
We can.
You guys want to throw down a play-along track or something? Is it possible, or?
I think it is.
Yeah, I just gotta switch over a couple things. So
Nick's got to switch over a couple things.
stand by for live.
Stand by.
Nice.
Because Nick is doing the job of 6 people, literally.
course.
And eventually we'll get. There's Nick. Eventually we'll. Well, as you were talking about having 2 computers, we'll do that. But right now,
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're almost. I gotta cue your. You're gonna lose him for a second, so I gotta cue your headphones.
Yeah. So
Cool.
we're gonna do it.
All right, I'm going to spotlight you,
Killer.
and I'll hide me.
All right, we're about to lose you, Jim.
Okay.
And then Nick, give me a heads up before you start it. But this is a song that, so through this, speaking of products, one of the things that I do and offer is people send me tracks, and I play drums to them. So my friend Robert Walter sent me 4 tracks through this, and he said that I could use them as play-alongs. So
great.
I'm going to play along to a record that's not even out yet.
Awesome.
So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2.
Okay, cool. All right, so we're going to, are you ready?
Almost. Get the.
So, and that's another thing that, as drummers, not only do you have to learn the drums, but then if you want to make a living in this, doing sessions, most of the guys who are doing sessions, they have their own recording situation. And that's just the way that, it's got to be if you want to make a viable living doing this now, And luckily, I've got Nick helping me out with all this.
Yeah, man, it's tough doing that as a one-man show, that's for sure.
It really is. It
'Cause-
is.
All right. You about ready?
I'm about ready.
Okay.
Sweet.
Stand by.
Awesome. Oh my goodness.
Woo!
Killing.
Yeah! Drums!
Sweet. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So great.
Thank you, bro.
Ah, killer.
So fun. So fun.
See, what
And,
a
you
treat.
know-
What a treat. We got you playing tonight. Oh my God.
Dude, I mean, it's amazing. Like, it still blows me away how far we've come. Like, that we can sit here and do this now, you know?
And
It's
I'm not
really-
going, Stan, mute the voice mic. What are you doing?
Right. I mean, I don't think I've come so far in something, and of course it's with Nick's help and with your help, but I don't think I've gone from the level that we are at to the level that we're in now in anything in my life like that. I mean, it was really just like, okay, let's go. And
Exactly.
it was like, ah.
It's like
And,
you have to do 4 years of college in 1 year. Go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seriously.
For real. It's like, okay, you think you can play the drums a little bit. Well, now you do live TV.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
while you're playing the drums. It's
Oh,
like,
man.
oh my God. But we're doing it. We're making it happen. And
it, man.
you know, the thing that I try to convey to people is like, look, man, stuff is going to happen. Like, technical difficulties are going to happen. I used to get so bummed out, and like now I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to have a heart attack if I keep getting stressed about this stuff. You just got to be like, oh well, you know,
it.
we're doing the best we can.
Yep.
You know, even CNN, man, like you're watching, you know, the news, and like they've got, you know, this big special guest, and it's like, you know, we lost them. Gosh, shucks.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
They're gone. Okay, we lost them. So,
Well, someone lost their job too.
yeah, someone might have lost their job too. But it's, you know, one of the things that I wanted to also talk to people about is like, you know, I started playing gigs when I was 16 years old, and then, you know, you start thinking, oh man, like, you know, when I play at an outdoor festival, that's going to be great, but it's going to be a nervous situation, right? So then you get used to playing outdoor festivals, right? And then you get used to playing bigger and bigger clubs. So I was playing, you know, 2,000, 3,000 seaters with Galactic pretty often, 1,000 seaters all the time, but occasionally 2,000 seaters, 3,000 seaters, Red Rocks, 9,000 people, Jazz Fest, 50,000 people.
Right.
And I felt completely comfortable doing that, right? And because we've been doing it for 25 years now. Then I started playing Snug Harbor with my piano trio, playing brushes. I'd spent years shedding brushes. I really wanted to expand that area of my playing. So started playing with my piano trio with David Torkanowski, James Singleton. And then you've got 80 people, and they're sitting up in the balcony, and nobody's dancing, nobody's moving, everybody's all eyes on you. And that was a very nerve-wracking playing situation to learn to adapt to. But then once I got comfortable with it and comfortable talking on the mic, I got much more comfortable in my playing in general. Then the pandemic hits, and then you've got to get comfortable playing to cameras and
Yeah, exactly.
playing live streams and talking into the camera. And now we're playing for a seated audience at Tipitina's, and my piano trio had never played tips because we didn't have a piano. Now we got a Yamaha Avant Grand during the COVID pandemic. So now playing sitting at the front of the stage at Tips, which I got comfortable doing at Snug, but being on camera, talking on the mic, being at the front of the stage, playing brushes, swinging out, doing all these things, like that would have been a very nerve-wracking situation a few years ago. But now it's like, the point I'm trying to make is you just have to keep challenging yourself. You have to keep pushing yourself. Keep putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. You know, streaming like we're doing was extremely uncomfortable at first. But now you get used to it. And as you get comfortable in it, it makes you a better player. a better performer, a better speaker, a more confident individual in general. So, what I've learned in this last year is just like a quantum leap, but I'm that's another one of the silver linings, and now playing on stage at Tips, it's like, it's very comfortable. It feels great. But having the cameras, you're streaming live TV. Not only are you playing in front of a seated audience, you're streaming and you don't know who's watching. It's like, you just got to adapt and grow into it.
Yeah, it's a weird feeling too, like as you were saying, when you first start streaming, I remember in the very beginning, just there's no response, right? So you'd play, and then you play a song, and it's like, usually when you're playing live, at least somebody's clapping, right? And then you finish playing, and you're like, well, I hope you like that. I don't know if you did. And then go to the next thing. Yeah, it's so crazy, man.
Right. And you just have to have confidence that they do, hopefully, right? It's just like when I started playing seated audiences with my trio, and you're looking at all these people, and you're like, especially like going to Japan with the trio, and France, and these different countries that we would go play, that I've played a few times. But like the first time playing with the piano trio in Japan, and you look at and you're like, oh my God, they hate it. Like, do they?
They're so polite,
Do they hate me right now? It's like, do they feel like I'm wasting their time right now? And then you end a song and they're just like, woo! They're like so excited, and then you get used to that. But playing bars and clubs, you're used to everybody's up in the front and they're like, yeah, the whole time. But it's something that you got to get used to.
I saw you at the Blue Note. I saw you at the Blue Note in New York a few years ago. I don't know how many years ago now, but my buddy Dave Clive was setting up a drum kit for you, and so we were at the Blue Note. You were with the trio, and
I remember this.
And that's like a different type of experience, right? In New York, everybody's pretty polite at the Blue Note for the most part, but people are sitting right on top of you, like we were, right
on top.
Right on top. We can see your brush strands moving around. So that's a whole nother experience, right? So
it is, and it's like I said, it's something that takes getting used to. But if you put yourself into those uncomfortable situations, you gradually become more comfortable, and it eventually makes you a more confident player.
Right.
I think.
I'll tell you, man, like playing New York jazz clubs, like we'd play the 55 bar with my fusion group, and you'd have the folks that come out that really want to just listen to music, and they're really watching, but then you'd have like kind of the neighborhood drunks that would just sort of hang out at the end of the bar and heckle, and so you get used to that vibe.
Right.
Pretty interesting. You know what I think?
Neighborhood drunks.
Before we kind of, I want to talk about speaking of education products, a few things, but I want to check the chat real quick because I haven't even looked yet, and I'm just going to do like a quick scan through there and say hello to a few people because I'm sure people want to say hi to you. Ross Amoroso, who's part of my Zoom squad on Thursday nights. We do this hand technique workshop, is hanging in here. Lucia Seminaro, who's a young female student of mine, is saying hello to you. And
awesome. Hello.
Tony Cucina is saying hello to you. Janine.
Awesome. Hello.
Janine Fox, Carnino Fox from O for Drum's Sake, which is a podcast that kind of has its home on Instagram, is saying hello. Michael Vosbane is saying hello.
What's up, Michael?
Michael. Dave Clive is saying hello.
Can I give Michael a shout out?
Yes, please.
So Michael does a fun drummer Zoom on Monday nights too.
Yeah.
And I think his starts later than yours. So Michael, maybe drop it in the chat. Obviously, you're not in your Zoom if you're in here. So maybe tell people what time your Zoom is.
Yeah, Mike, put the URL in the chat window there if you could.
Yeah,
and,
Michael's got a fun Zoom that I did a couple weeks ago on a Monday night.
Oh, cool, man. Dave Clive says hello. Pat Ross says hello.
What's up, Dave and Pat?
Just saw those two guys for dinner the other night.
Fantastic. Where'd y'all go eat?
We ate local on Staten Island at like sort of a seafood restaurant. So they kept the occupancy kind of spread apart, and it's right on the water, like sitting on a dock, on Staten Island, looking over the harbor. It was very nice.
Very nice. I love that kind of vibe.
Yeah, it was very cool.
I love being outside. Another silver lining is that a lot of restaurants now have had to create outdoor seating areas. And all of my friends and musicians who have toured with me know that that's my jam. I love sitting outside and eating, especially on the water. So
yeah, man. Definitely the best.
It's very European.
Yeah. Tanner Jennings says hello.
Cool.
Bob Sears says hello. Stephen Chamberlain, my buddy Stephen in Canada. We're doing a drum intensive, Montreal drum intensive. Myself, Stephen Chamberlain, and Daniel Bedard. And he said, "This is amazing, Stanton. Tell us more about your LP Pandero."
Yeah, sure. Cool. So
Bob Sears.
I've got two over here. One's tuned lower, one's tuned higher. They both have coated Emperor heads on them. And the one that's lower, I tune it about as low as it'll go. Then I actually put it on a carpeted surface and I kneel on it and stretch the head.
Wow.
And then I mic it from underneath. Right now we've got a Audix D6 underneath. And I try to make it sound like a cross between a floor tom and a bass drum.
Yeah.
And I love it for all the Mardi Gras Indian stuff. So here's what this low one sounds like. But then I like to play them together.
Wow, nice. That sounds so good. Just sounds so good.
Thank you, buddy. And then, here, since we're drummers, right, we're talking about this stuff. So check this out. A lot of my stickings and stuff, right, I could do a left hand on Pandero, right hand on cowbell, right? All right, now imagine if I take that same sticking and now I'm going to take it and put the left hand on the cowbell and the right hand on this higher Pandero. But then I'll go back and forth. Same sticking, but changing up the voicings.
Yeah. Yeah.
So having fun with the left side percussion stuff.
Man, what's so great is, you're taking one sticking and just through orchestration creating all these different little landscapes with it. And that's like the beauty, I think, as far as being somebody that enjoys the practicing process of practicing stuff, playing things slow and moving the same idea around, right? And reorchestrating it. Man, it's such a creative process, but it sounds so good. Just so great, man.
Thank you, man. I mean, that's how I come up with a lot of stuff, is finding something, whether it's a sticking or some hybrid rudiment or something that I like, and then improvising with it.
Right.
Getting off the page, not looking at anything, and just really improvising, experimenting. And then once you come up with something, be like, ooh, what is this? Let me, I used to write them all down, which I still do, but to remember it, I would either write it down or I would film it record it just with a cassette player back in the day.
Yeah.
But then film it with my iPhone. And nowadays, I write out a lesson, then I film it into a lesson, and
Yeah. And then it winds
put
up
it
in
up on the academy.
in the academy, right? So like the
Yeah.
last one you put up was, I think you put up something variations of Steve Gadd's Lenore,
Yeah.
right? Like lesson 27 or something, 26 or 27.
Yeah.
So
Now we're up to 29. I just released 2 new lessons. And is it okay if I mention the academy?
of course. Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. So anybody who's interested in what I'm doing, Stanton Moore Drum Academy has a lot of these things that I do that make me me, but it also has 34 video lessons of Mark Wessel's Fresh Approach to Drum Set, which
Right.
is from beginner to intermediate. And right now we're doing first 30 days for $1.
Wow.
So, yeah. $1 for the first 30 days, and it's tons and tons of these video lessons, but also the things, the Mark Wessel's Fresh Approach to Drum Set. And also people have direct access to me, can ask me questions through the forum. We're all teaching each other and sharing things with each other. It's really quite a fun group. And did I give you a login yet?
I think I have a login, yeah.
If I haven't, then I definitely want to make sure that you're in there.
Yeah,
Your
because
lifetime-
on the before you change platforms, I think I had it on the old platform. I don't know if it's the same for the login, but yeah.
Well, if we'll make sure after we get out of this, you're a lifetime member gratis.
I'm a lifetime member.
For all the help you've given me, man.
Oh
Definitely.
man, my pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, let me just, I'm going to mention a few more people in the chat, and then I got a couple more questions for you. But Peter Retzlaff is in the chat. He's a New York straight ahead jazz drummer. He teaches at Drummers Collective.
Cool.
Super talented. He's got that book, Giant Steps to Baby Steps, and he's going to be my guest next month. So Peter Retzlaff is going to be in here. Great drummer. Michael Vosman is wondering, what processing do you use on the voice mic for streaming? Is that me or Stanton directed to? And we'll see if he answers on that. Lucia's still here. Rick Potts, yes. Steve Balguyen. Do you know Steve?
Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, Steve's in here,
Steve
man.
Balgoyan.
I always
Stevie B.
pronounce his name wrong, and he even sent me a very nice email where he wrote the pronunciation, and I
Nice.
still slaughtered your name. I apologize.
Yeah, Steve Balgoyan is one of my longtime students and SMDA
Yeah.
members, as are Pat Ross, Dave Clive.
Yep. I think Dave Clive has never missed a single one.
Yeah, Dave is very dedicated. I love
Yeah,
Dave.
man. And Steve said that he's done both the in-person and the virtual drum camps, and that they're both amazing for different reasons. And so cool to be able to sit behind your own drums with the virtual model. So that's that's a nice comment, because he did it from the virtual side. He enjoyed being able to play on his own drum kit and having
Right.
you, I'm sure, comment and gives direction, right? So
Yeah, so that's what was great. That's a silver lining of the virtual camp, is that everybody can be at their own full kit, and while I'm demonstrating something, they can be trying out their version. And I made a point to play everything longer, so when I would play something, I play longer, so people can, wail away playing
great.
with me. And then also, sometimes people want to tap, and that's totally cool, but when we're doing that in person, then I have to talk over it, and
Yeah.
then my voice starts to give out. So with the virtual model, people could tap away as much as they wanted to, as long as they were on mute, and so people got to get a lot of practicing in while I was talking about stuff.
Oh, that's
so
killer.
I think people really enjoyed it, and I will be doing more of it. I will be announcing a virtual one-day intensive, but I'm going to give my repeat offenders who were in the last intensive, I'm going to give them the first crack at it. So any of y'all looking at this now, I'll be sending out an email soon about that to just y'all for a super early bird, and then I'll announce it to the public.
nice. Catherine Bray says hello. Andrew Hearn says hello. Jim Payne, funky drummer, says hello.
What's up, Jim Payne? Man, I learned so much from Jim Payne's book, Give the Drummer Some.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I really learned a lot about funk drumming, and especially the playing of Clyde and Javo and
Yeah,
David
man.
Garibaldi, and then started trying to mix David Garibaldi with Zigaboo Mode East. And, I really learned a lot from Jim's book. So shout out to Jim. Man, Saturday night, I got to go see Mike Clark play with the Headhunters.
You did?
I did. I went to the Howlin' Wolf and saw that show. Yeah, it's incredible. And I went up and talked to him afterwards. Of course, I've met Mike, many times, but it was good to go listen to Mike. He sounds as good as ever.
Yeah,
and go say hi to him. So here in New Orleans, we're very fortunate that numbers are going down, and
Right.
we're doing really well with vaccinations. Last weekend, I played one gig this weekend. Last weekend, I played 4 gigs.
That's amazing.
I played a private party on Wednesday. Played with my trio at Tips on Thursday. Another private party on Friday, and then played outdoors on a marina on Saturday.
Wow.
Played outdoors at a brewery yesterday with my organ trio.
Sweet.
So yeah, man,
Gigs are coming back, man. I'm so happy. I've gotten, from a couple of my bands, I've started to get dates in for like June and July. Nothing yet, but June and July, it looks like it's going to be coming back. So
Yeah, good.
sweet, man. John Gill says hello also. Bob Sears, Tony Casina, Lucia. Let me see. What do we got? Peter. All right, cool. Steven Sasso. Chuck Harling.
Chuck Harling, one of my SMDA guys.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's a great
and
hang
Sona.
tonight, man. Don O'Keefe
Fun.
is in here. A lot of good guys. Johnny Young is in here. He's a piano player from my band Giant Flying Turtles.
Nice.
Steve Ebb is in here. Dave Guerra is in here. Steve Ford. There's a lot of people. I'm not going to get to everybody, but awesome to see her. Oh, Nikos is in here, man.
Yo, what's up, Malaka?
What's up, Nikos? He said SMDA is the bomb.
Yes, indeed. Well, we have a lot of fun in there. I don't mean to give myself a shameless plug, but we do have a lot of fun. We share a lot. We all the guys post videos of what they're working on, and I comment, and I learn a lot from them because they say, "Man, have you seen this Art Blakey video? Have you read this book? Have you heard this drummer? Have you heard this tune? Have you checked out this groove?" So I'm learning a lot too. It's great. We all share and learn from each other, and then I'm in there commenting and responding all the time.
Ah, that's great, man. And Gary Weiss says hello. He plays drums with Gloria Gaynor,
Cool.
as well as others. Really great New York drummer. Yeah, man. So I want to mention something real quick. I wanted to mention, first of all, this is you and I in
Wow.
2010, right after PASIC, your performance at PASIC. I met you backstage.
That's
and
awesome.
was hanging out with with all my buddies that were there to see you, and then we went out to the cigar bar that night in Indianapolis.
I love that place.
Yeah. So then
Nikki Blaine's, right? Is that the name of
yeah,
the place?
that's right.
I love that place. So much fun. So many great hangs there.
And that was I think the first time that I actually really got to meet you and talk to you, and that was kind of on the heels of Groove Alchemy coming out, right? That PASIC.
Yeah, 2010. Yeah.
Yeah. And in case anybody doesn't have this, if you don't have it, there's a problem. You have to have this because to me, this book is just as important as Stick Control, just as important as Ted Reed. Like, this is one of those books that is timeless, that is always going to be important to have in your repertoire. So if you're a drum teacher, teach this to your students. If you're a student, go get this thing and play the heck out of it because it's really got the history of funk playing and groove playing down to a T. It's really killer, starting with the James Brown drummers. And it's just such a great book, man. And
I
then
learned a lot about that from Jim Payne's book, and then
Yeah.
expanded upon it after things that I learned from talking to Clyde and Jabo and
Right.
and Zig and but really Jim Payne's book was for me the thing that really got me to a level where I started understanding it all, and then I did my own research and deep dive. But you got to give a shout out to Jim Payne.
Yeah, oh, of course, man. Jim's a good friend of mine, and we were just chatting on Friday about some upcoming projects for Jim. So he's got his School of Funk, and I helped him kind of with some of the marketing and the technology side now for Jim. We're getting his technology on so he can teach more from home. So great guy, Jim Payne.
Very cool. Well, thanks for mentioning the book. And then Nick, if you want to switch to the front cam, real quick. That kit that's on the cover.
Oh, yeah.
Is right here.
Look at that.
Twilight Glass Glitter kit. That was my Galactic kit for many years. And it's right here.
And by the way, I'm just going to real quick pull up this window if it'll work. Oh, it's not open. Here we go. So you could get Groove Alchemy on the Hudson digital platform, which is great. So if you don't have your Hudson Digital, and I did a little tutorial about this recently, how to download books on the Hudson Digital site, but Groove Alchemy is up on the Hudson Digital site, and they're still selling the physical copy, but if you don't have, I have both. So I like having the book and the digital so I can bring it up on my video screens in my drum room, but make sure you get both. Get it in print and in digital.
Very cool. And I think I have signed copies for sale on my website.
Oh, cool.
I gotta make sure of that. But it is available on my shop on my website as well.
And also the traditions. Where's my titles? I have your DVD, traditional New Orleans drumming, and then you have the companion thing is modern New Orleans drumming.
Yeah.
Those two DVDs.
So it's Take It to the Street.
Yep.
There's the traditional approach and the modern approach.
Yeah. So those two products, man, it's just such great stuff because you go so in depth, and you're playing. Is it on the traditional one? You're playing with a brass band.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the Dirty Dozen brass band.
Dirty Dozen brass band. Yeah. So it's just killing. So I want to do a quick. I'm gonna name drummers, and you're gonna give me your impressions.
Nice.
Now you just tell me, in a few words, what you feel about these guys. So, and by the way, on Stanton's YouTube channel, there's a playlist called Academy Interviews, and so Stanton does some interviews, and he's done some great ones up there. And so I'm going to mention a couple of the guys that he's interviewed, but definitely check that out. So subscribe to Stanton's YouTube page because there's great content up there. Not only there's clips of all these different lessons that Stanton's teaching up there, but as well as these interviews, which I always get excited about. I love hearing other drummers talk to other drummers. It's just, it's our crazy, weird, extended family community that we have, right?
Yeah.
It's such a crazy thing.
I love it.
So,
I love talking drums.
Adam Deach.
Yeah. Adam is a good friend of mine, great funk drummer, and both of his parents are drummers, and they met at Berkeley. And so he's been playing since he was about 3 years old, and he's one of my favorite drummers who's my age, and just a great funk groove drummer, all around drummer, man. It's a great feel, really creative, really on top of a lot of what's going on currently.
Yeah.
With all types of different hip hop, trap, and just all kinds of different modern current things that are happening in groove.
Yeah, I mean, even in the Lettuce stuff, they dip into that sort of hip hop side of things, with some of the expanded swing feels and stuff. It's really interesting. And the other thing about his playing that I love is you can hear him paying homage to all the guys that came before. Sometimes literally, and other times you just feel it coming through. Like there's one track that's a total Tower of Power kind of thing, and he's giving a nod to Garibaldi on that for sure.
Yeah, he started with Garibaldi.
Wow.
When he was younger, yeah. So, he's amazing player, amazing guy, one of my good friends.
I saw him at the Blue Note, and he was playing on his fan for a cowbell, so he had a metal fan next to the kit. So while he was playing, he just started using the fan as like another sound source, and I was like, that's so hip.
That's very cool.
Why not? It's
Yeah.
like Daphne's Prieto with his frying pan. So what about Keith Carlock?
Keith Carlock, another one of my favorite drummers who's around my age. I think Adam might be like a year or two younger than me. Keith's like a year older, maybe a year or two older. Keith, I mean, what an unbelievable player. What a powerhouse. He's been with Steely Dan for, 18 years now?
Yeah, man.
And to be able to cover all of those drummers. And, I interviewed Adam in these leather chairs over here.
Yeah.
And Keith. And, Keith said being in Steely Dan is like being in the best drum school you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
Because he's had to learn how to cover the parts of Bernard Purdy, Jeff Porcaro, Steve Gadd, Jim Hodder, and then oh man, of course there's so many others. Rick Marotta.
And he I was just gonna say I got distracted because you said Jim Hodder because he lived by my grandmother's house.
Oh wow.
Yeah, when I was a kid, and I had no idea that he played in Steely Dan, that his family was down there. But yeah, man, but Keith Carlock still puts his own stamp on it, which is amazing, right? So he's got a sound, he's got to bring it what all these guys have done before, but still sound like Keith, which is amazing.
Yeah, and Jim Gordon and Jim Keltner.
Yeah.
All of those cats, all such great players, and yeah, Keith does it all such great justice, and as you said, still sounds like Keith.
Yeah, that's amazing. And by the way, when I was younger, I would see him play in New York with Wayne Krantz, like in these little
55.
clubs.
Yeah,
And man, he would just rip it up.
it's so bad.
So Russell Batiste Jr.
In my opinion, I think the funkiest drummer that has ever been on the planet. And that is my opinion. And I have some videos that I could show you where it's like, I mean, that's pretty funky.
There's one I think you reposted on your YouTube page of him
Yeah.
from a festival
Yeah.
or something. And
Yeah,
he
and
was
so-
just killing it. It
Yeah.
was unbelievable.
Russell is like lightning in a bottle. And, he's one of those players that you really kind of have to be standing there next to him and see it. And if you do get that privilege to really see it, I mean, and to see him on a good night, it's just life affirming and life changing. I was 17 years old when I saw him, and he was 24, and he was playing no shirt on, completely ripped, and just like, I mean, he sounded like a mix between Zigaboo and Dennis Chambers with punk rock energy.
Yeah.
Just like, oh,
hitting
my God.
hard.
Hitting hard,
Looking
and
like
just
Bruce
playing-
Lee.
Yeah, exactly. Looking like Bruce Lee, hitting hard, and playing stream of consciousness, just like, not repeating anything. Just like, you're just like, God, how do you come up with all this? It's like, and it's crushing.
Right.
Just like, yeah, unbelievable drummer and talent and songwriter, and Russell Batiste Jr. is, in my opinion, one of the baddest dudes of all time.
Wow.
I carried around his drums for years.
Oh,
I was
did
his
you?
drum tech. Yeah, when I
wow.
was like 18, 19, 20, I was his drum tech.
What a
And
great
that's how
way.
I got to like sound check with George Porter Jr., which led to my first gigs with George Porter Jr. in 1993 when I was 21 years old. And I wasn't ready yet, but I played a few gigs with George, and he's like, all right, he's like, keep working on it.
Nice.
I wasn't quite ready yet, but I did get to play with George Porter Jr. a few gigs in 1993. That was the start of my playing with George, and of course I've played with George many times, but first started playing with George because I was Russell's tech and they needed somebody to fill in for Russell.
Oh my God! Wow, that's amazing. Because you put yourself in a position where you're around the guys you are influenced by. Even if it's just carrying somebody's drums, you put yourself right there. That was very smart.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, and
interning. It's like interning in life.
Yeah, and I used to carry a notepad, music staff paper, and I would write stuff down that Russell was playing. He's like, man, check out this little dude. He's writing down stuff I'm playing. He's like, I don't even know what I'm playing.
Oh my God, that's so great. Oh, geez. All right, I'll just give you maybe one or two more. So, Steve Gadd, we have to ask.
Oh God, I mean, he's everybody's favorite. I mean, even when you go back and you're watching stuff that you've seen a million times, you're just like, and we've all seen so many other drummers now. It's like every time I watch Steve Gadd, it's like, yeah, it's as good as you thought it was. Like, it's as good as everybody says it is.
Yeah.
He's as good. There's no over exaggerating how great Gadd is, and how innovative and how influential. I mean, there's never been anybody so different that came along and then everybody's just like, okay, we're doing this now.
Right.
I mean, there are other drummers who are unique, but then not where, okay, there were what drumming sounded like before this guy, and then after this guy, how much he influenced everybody, right? I mean, of course, Tony Williams was influential, Elvin Jones, Philly Joe, all these guys, But it's not like Buddy Rich came along and then everybody started sounding something like some kind of version of Buddy Rich. But
Right.
Steve Gadd came along and you can hear Gadd in like everybody.
Yeah.
To me, something about him. Stickings or rudimental applications or the way that he shuffles or just the way that he plays brushes. I mean, God, it's
Yeah.
so killing, man.
And I saw him a few years ago when Chick was doing these anniversary shows at the Blue Note.
Yeah,
And
did
so-
you go to some of those?
Yeah, so they did the whole album of the Leprechaun, and
Yeah.
and it was Gadd and Eddie Gomez, for the rhythm section, and it was
Yeah.
just killing, man. And when he came in, he's getting up there in age, and I sat right behind where the edge of the stage was, and so he was going up the three little steps, and I kind of grabbed his elbow, and he got up on his chair and played, and just like destroyed. Everybody's just like, oh my God, he just sounded
Yeah.
so amazing.
And I'm sure you've heard this, but for some of the people watching, there's a well-known quote from Chick Corea, where Chick Corea says, not only is Steve Gadd the best drummer I've ever played with, he's the best musician I've ever encountered.
Right.
So, coming from Chick Corea, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, man. Rest in peace, Chick Corea. What a crazy
Yes,
year,
indeed.
right? Yeah, and I'll just mention one other guy. I had 30 drummers on my list to mention, but I'll just mention one more because I think I know the answer to this. But what was your feeling on John Bonham?
I mean, I can't over-exaggerate how much I love John Bonham. I mean, and, I don't even try to sound like John Bonham because it's like, and there are some guys who are really good at it. Like my friend George Flutis is just amazing at sounding like Bonham, and it's incredible. But I wanted to take what Bonham was doing and spend time being influenced by him and letting it come out as something else. Bonham, to me, man, is just like, again, every time you go back and listen to it, it's like, yeah, it's as good as you thought it was. It's every bit as good as everybody says it is. It's timeless.
Yeah.
It's so grooving and so heavy and so inventive,
Absolutely.
And so powerful without being too powerful,
I think you've definitely grabbed some of that attitude in your playing, though. Because even if you're playing a completely different style and you're in a way different lane than Led Zeppelin was in, it's still that power and the groove, the deepness of the groove, because I think his groove was really, really deep.
Yeah.
I hear that in your playing,
Yeah. Well, man, thank you for saying that. But, for me, it was really important. I wanted Johnny Vodakovich really emphasized this to me. He's like, man, every chance you get, put your own stamp on it, put your own thumbprint on it. He's like, try to become your own unique individual. So everything that I learn, I try to come up with my own version of it, right? And same thing with Bonham. And, I really admire, respect, and commend the guys who can sound just like him,
Right.
And George is amazing like that. And then George will post something where he's playing something. He's playing some Art Blakey that sounds exactly like Art Blakey. It's just like,
wow,
God, it's amazing.
Oh, that's crazy.
And I can't do that. Like I can sound like me.
Yeah. Well, I think
there's
that's
definitely some Bonham coming from him.
that's a killer thing to have, is that you have this very unique voice where most people, if they know you, they know you're playing. If they hear you on somebody else's record, they can hear that, oh man, that's Stanton playing on that. You have that individuality, you have that voice, and that's where it's at. I mean, that's the art, right? It's
thank you,
taking all that stuff in the blender that we listened to over all the years, and then you dump it on yourself, and hopefully you come out with your own thing.
Come out with something.
Yeah,
something different.
Yeah, man. By the way, with the Bonham thing, if you've heard that "Fool in the Rain" isolated track,
Yeah.
right? That's so killer, and just hearing it by itself.
Oh, it's amazing. And a lot of people have heard that now. It's amazing. And there's also a few other of the isolated tracks. And if you haven't heard it yet, it's on YouTube. Just
it's on
put
YouTube.
in John Bonham isolated tracks, "Fool in the Rain." But what's really cool too is more recently, Jeff Porcaro isolated tracks to Rosanna.
Oh, cool.
Popped up. Yeah. So if you haven't heard that yet, check that out.
Wow.
That's really, really, really incredible as well. So, really cool. But yeah, Bonham's isolated "Fool in the Rain." Oh God, it's just so good.
Yeah, it's just so silly
It just
good, right?
sounds so good. His tone and so unique, man. And just think about this, man. Think about, to me, like how brave and how much, pardon my French, how much balls it took to be like, I'm playing giant drums, I'm tuning them up high, and then he didn't hit as hard as everybody thinks he did.
Right.
But he got a huge sound. And imagine going into a studio with that today. People would be like, no way.
No way, yeah.
They're like, muffled up that bass drum and all this kind of. And he was like, He's like,
Right.
This is what I'm doing. And it sounds amazing.
It does.
I mean, and nobody does that, you know?
No. Every bass drum is tight and muffled now, and just
Yeah.
punch.
Yeah,
His
but
whole drum
imagine-
sound was totally open. It was insane.
Yeah. And imagine just the chutzpah and just the confidence and just the bravado that you have to be like, this is what I sound like, and it's badass. You better get on board with it. Or,
Oh, my God.
It's
whole
like,
miking tech.
God. What's that?
There's a whole miking technique that they create.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
But God, how amazing, man. Yeah, just absolutely one of my favorites. And, for anybody who's interested, my three favorites, what I consider because I just keep coming back to these guys. And of course I have tons of other favorites, right?
Right.
But
Yep.
my holy trinity is Bonham, Zigaboo Modaliste, and Elvin Jones.
Wow.
It's like with those three guys,
Yeah.
you could pretty much do anything.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And the reason I didn't really bring up, because I know that Zig is one of your big influences, and I kind of wanted to just explore a couple other things, because I'm sure if anybody gets this, you're going to find out all about Zig, which amazing that you got it from the source, which is just incredible, because and just the way, like, I've made every one of my students go through and learn Sissy Strut, the two parts, the way you have them written out and everything, and every one of them is always like, oh my God, this is so complicated. because it's just not the way you approach groove normally, right? So
Yeah.
it's just mind blowing, man.
Yeah.
And I love
Well,
your
I'm-
explanation of it. You know how it really is more of a second line kind of thing, just transferred onto the drum kit. So
Yeah.
killer.
Yeah, and once you understand that, it's not complicated.
Right.
It's just a different approach, but it's so natural.
Yeah.
It's so natural from Zig's upbringing and being, absorbed into second line and all right left, and
Yeah.
he's just splitting it up, but it's right left, right left.
Yeah.
But linear before linear.
Right. Linear before linear was like a thing.
Right.
Unbelievable. Wow, man. Well, I don't want to keep you all night. I could go on and probably talk to you for about 3 more hours.
I love it. Well, we should do this again at some point.
We should definitely do it again. And I definitely have, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 more pages of questions. But
I love it.
But we'll do it again. We'll do it again. And
Beautiful.
And I think this was super fun. And it's always a pleasure to hang out with you. And Nick over there on the other side.
Yes, indeed.
And
There's Nick.
and I have to say, yeah, Nick, and I have to say that meeting you
Around here somewhere.
in this way, and getting to work with you so closely on the rig has been, just a really beautiful thing this year. So out of a weird, screwed up COVID weird situation, definitely some great things have happened out of it, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. It's been great to get to know you, and I can't thank you enough for your tutelage and consultation through all of this. When I think back on just how in the dark we all felt, and you have been a light helping guide a lot of drummers, and you're spoken of very highly by the drum community that has interacted with you. So thank you not just from me and Nick, but thank you from the drumming community.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, man.
Thank you,
You've
man.
really helped us along, man, and helped guide us out of this dark period and shown us the light. So thank you, my man.
Well, who knew that you and I would share, like, both being in a magazine together? I got you on the cover, and then I got like 20 pages of drum tech in here that I wrote. So that was so amazing that you and I could be in the same magazine together.
So fantastic.
Yeah, man. Well, you guys have a wonderful evening. We're gonna wrap this up. Dave Stanhope is saying hello. I just
Jim.
noticed he was in the chat.
Thanks to Dave. Dave, said call Jim, and we've met over the years, but he said call Jim, and that was Dave's idea for me to call you to get consultation on tech. So thanks to Dave Stanek too.
Yeah, and Dave's one of the first guys that I set up, besides myself and Dom Famularo. He's one of the first guys outside of this, like 3 years ago, that I set up his rig in his studio. And then he made the introduction to us, even though we had met a few times. I'll tell you one other time before we go that I met you was you came up at BB King's in the city and sat in with Corrosion of Conformity
Yes.
at one of their gigs.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how I wound up at that gig, but
It was.
Yeah.
I think it was Motorhead.
Motorhead was
Wasn't-
playing, right?
Yeah. So maybe you were there to see Motorhead.
A friend of
and-
mine, right, was like, "Hey, man, do you want to see Motorhead?" And I'm like, "I've never seen Motorhead." I was like, "Yeah, I'll go." And they were playing at BB King's, which is
Yeah.
like, what a weird place for Motorhead, right? And
Yeah.
Corrosion played, but you didn't do the whole gig. You came out and played
Came out and sat in on a few tunes. I
on a
think.
few tunes, yeah. So
But then I wound up doing maybe 10 gigs with them where I played the whole gig
right.
with COC. And that was, I did that record, of course,
Yeah.
In the Arms of God. But it was great, man. I got to see Motorhead from the side of the stage, multiple times. I mean, unbelievable.
let me blew out the sound system that night at BB King's.
wow.
Yeah, they blew it out, and they had to like stop the show and fix everything and get back. But they did finish the show, but he blew out the sound
Yeah.
BB King's New Orleans?
No, BB King's in New York.
in New York.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's awesome that you were there.
That's some history, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh man. All right. Well, this was super cool. Thank you to my guest Stanton Moore for hanging with me tonight. We got to hear you play, which was such a treat because a lot of times this is just sort of more of an interview thing. So it's really cool that you were playing, and I appreciate you, and I know everybody that was hanging appreciates you. And I'll probably be talking to you soon in maybe the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I hope so.
So I'm going to roll the titles, and we'll see everybody on the next one. I'll see you guys Thursday for the hand technique workshop, Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a good night, everybody.